Hi, I'm Dana,
And I'm Holly.
and this episode is sponsored by the sentence no. But seriously, we're diving into boundaries today because you can't keep pouring out of a cup that somebody else poked holes into. So let's talk about why saying no isn't mean and why overgiving isn't noble, and that we can set limits without lighting everything on fire unless we need to. And sometimes we need to. Sometimes that's what has to happen. And also that no is a full sentence. You don't have,
Definitely.
how many times do you set a boundary, Holly, that in the past, maybe not anymore because we've worked on ourselves, but how many times in the past have you had to come up with a whole elaborate explanation about why you couldn't do something
Right.
because it's
Right.
not something you wanted to do or you wanted to
Yeah.
overextend yourself to do?
Instead of just saying, no, I don't think that's for me right now, or no, thank you, and just let it be done. No is an absolutely full sentence. And boundaries are not walls, they're invitations to be your authentic self. We should know that we don't have to do everything everyone asks us to. We can say no. We can have boundaries. We are worthy enough not to overextend ourselves.
Exactly. I mean, and you know what else too? Like we could have boundaries with different people. Like I could have a boundary that I set with my friends that I don't have that boundary with my family. So
Right.
like, or a boundary that I set with my friends that if a coworker asks, I'm like, no, I'm not
Yes.
doing.
I mean, I think just like you were talking about with your kids or your family, I mean, perhaps you turn your phone off at night, but you allow anything from your children or your parents to come through, but
Right.
not from friends or colleagues. I mean, that is a
Exactly.
boundary. It doesn't have to be a one size fits all boundary.
Right. And you shouldn't feel bad. You shouldn't let somebody say, well, you did it for so and so. And yeah, that was the boundary I had that day. Your boundaries can change every day. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But I
Yeah.
do think that we need to set clear boundaries with certain people.
So important. It's so important to be very clear in the boundary. And also to remember that when we set boundaries, those boundaries are for ourselves. They are a way to actually deepen the connection, not push people away. And they're
Right.
also, that doesn't mean because you set a boundary, if I set a boundary with Dana, that doesn't mean Dana changes. That means that I have decided when Dana crosses my boundary, how I'm going to respond to that and how I'm going to handle it. If I've clearly told her this boundary, especially, then I should also know that I need to know how to respond to that because it's not up to everyone else to change. It's up to ourselves to set that boundary and know what we will do when it is crossed and how we will
Right.
handle that situation.
Because we can't change anybody else. We can't change how other people react or how they respond or how they just are in general. We can only control ourselves. And so that's where the boundaries lie. And if I say, Holly, I'm not going to work on the podcast after 9 p.m. and Holly doesn't want to come and do it until 8:30, well, we don't have time, Holly. I have to be done by 9, so we'll have to do this tomorrow. And that's fine.
Exactly. I know there's a
And
lot of adult children who don't particularly want their parents coming over and just walking in the door anytime they feel like it. And everybody feels differently about that, right? And so some people have a boundary with that, and some people are like, no, my mom and dad can come anytime. But the point is, if you explain to your parents, look, call me before you come to my house. Now, that's probably going to be a hard habit for them to break, But what are you going to do when they come and open your door and walk in? Are you going to let that slide? Or are you going to say, Mom and Dad, I don't have time to visit right now. It isn't an emergency because I've already asked you to please call before you come.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you saying that just, it's so funny because my mother and father, I don't care. And they can walk
Right.
in my house anytime they want. It's always been like that. My sister, on the other hand, says, call me first. She wants to know ahead of time if you're coming to her house. So they have two children with two different boundaries that they
Boundaries.
have to know which one is which. But
Exactly. See,
but
I'm that
yeah,
way. Yeah, I don't mind if somebody shows up to my house. I'm cool with that. But I know that for some people, that's not all right.
right. I mean, my sister is a lot more busy in the past. She has been. And and I'm not. And really, even now that I am busy, I don't care. They just know, don't bother me if I'm in my office. And
Right. Right.
and I think it is harder to set boundaries with family though, because of there's more guilt, more obligation, and more culture, and like especially with your parents, because they'll be like, we didn't raise you to be like this, or we always let your grandparents come over whenever they wanted to, and so why can't I come? There's
Exactly. I
there's
think
that, I
I
tell grandma that you're not staying, for 3 days after Thanksgiving. You're just staying for Thanksgiving dinner and leaving. And,
yes.
and to see how upset grandma gets.
And we have to learn to accept that other people's reactions and emotions are not our responsibility. When we say no, we choose ourselves. That is not a selfish thing. That means
No.
that essentially, I'm probably not going to be good for you if I have to stay at your house 3 days after Thanksgiving. I'm going to be discontent. It's probably going to cause a conflict between grandma and I, right? I don't,
Right.
if that's not something that I would normally do or something that I prefer to do. And I think for the most part, the people we are closest to are the ones we have the hardest time setting the boundaries with. Because realistically, if a stranger walked up and did the same thing to us that some family members or close friends do, we would have no problem quickly pulling that boundary up and being like, this is not acceptable. But I do believe that guilt comes in, and guilt is a sign of conditioning, not really your truth. It's not your truth. It's the old script in your subconscious running. And when you rewrite it, yeah, it feels weird. Feels strange to be able to say no and set that boundary. But it's for the benefit of everyone.
Mhm. And you can love somebody and still say, not this time. Not this time.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between pushing people away and protecting your peace. There's a
Yes.
difference. And I mean, I used to think boundaries meant just cutting people off and just disappearing. Like poof, you know,
Yeah.
gone, ghosting you. You're like, nope, I'm going over here and just hiding. But true boundaries are they're something that are shared. And it's me saying, this is how I need to be loved.
Yes.
Can you meet me here?
I love that, Dana. I love that. That really is at the core of it. And I think
Hmm.
as women too, we are so often taught to people please, to overgive, to self abandon, to maintain the peace within the relationship. And that's not who we have to be. Of course, there's compromise, but compromise is with two parties involved, not with you being the one who compromises all the time. It is like if I ask someone to not call me a certain name that they like to call me, a pet name perhaps, or play a song that was perhaps something that was offensive to me, but yet they repeatedly choose to do that, then a boundary needs to be set and it needs to be clear that I don't want you to do these things. And if you do at that moment, I'm going to excuse myself from the situation.
Exactly. You don't owe somebody access to you because they're used to having access to you. It's okay to say, okay, this enough is enough. I'm cutting myself off here because you're exhausted. You can't be by being nice. It doesn't mean you're going to be appreciated. It just means you're going to be exhausted. If you
Yes,
extend yourself beyond your boundaries, you have boundaries for a reason. They're to protect your energy. And energy costs.
it
So,
does.
don't hesitate to allow your boundaries to help you keep yourself in your peace, in your place, in your safety, where you can have a night's sleep and re-energize your body and just know that you're doing the right thing for you.
Exactly. And the body always knows first. If you are in a situation, listen to your physical cues. Tight chest, drained energy, as Dana has mentioned, nervous laughter. Those are often boundary breaches. And so if you start to listen to your body, feel the tension in it when somebody does something that is really crossing maybe an invisible boundary that you have but haven't shared with them yet. And learning that your body will tell you, it will tell you, as well as just the whole circumstance. And when we keep those things inside, it only perpetuates problems within the body.
Mhm.
Boundaries are healthy, not just emotionally and mentally, but physically as well. And without boundaries, we leak energy constantly. It's not just about time, it's about your emotional capacity. We always use the term trying to pour from a cup with a crack in the bottom. And that's kind of
Yeah,
what it's like when you don't have your boundaries.
exactly. I mean, you lose energy, you lose clarity, you lose sanity, and you end up angry, overextended, and feel like you're invisible because it seems like you're not cared for. And the only person not caring for you though is you. So care for
Yes.
yourself.
And here's
And
another misconception. You can be kind and still say no. You
absolutely.
can be compassionate to yourself and be within a circle of care where everyone is meeting their own needs plus each other's. It is kind to yourself. And that should always be the first step, being kind to yourself. And you don't have to be belligerent or scream your boundary out or yell that somebody has crossed it. You can be kind. I can ask Dana and I can say, Dana, you know, you really make me feel like a bad mom when you say you don't have bedtimes for your kids. Like, what's wrong with that? Oh, your kids are up again. Why is that? Like, my kids go to bed at this. So to say, hey, Dana, I don't appreciate you speaking that way. This is how I like to do it with my family. My kids are productive. They get up, they go to work, they do whatever, they go to school, they get their things done. I can say that kindly without saying, well, blah, 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 going right back at it. Of course, Dana has never said this to me and or anything like that, just as an example here.
But really, like what you're saying, kind of, it's not always what you say, it's what you allow. So if you allowed me to continue to say these things about you and you didn't say anything, then you're just allowing me to breach your boundaries without me knowing. And if I don't know, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if it's a true friendship, a true loving, caring relationship that somebody is in, whether it's a partner or a friend like Dana and I, then you're going to respect that. You're going to respect that the other person spoke up and said, hey, I really, I really don't like it when you say that. It would be different perhaps if somebody come to you and said, hey, how does that work for your family? Because in my family, we do this. But somebody making you feel judged or less than because they have a different belief than you do, I don't think a lot of times people realize that that does fall under boundaries. How people talk to you and how they present things to you is a boundary. And if you don't like the way that happens, then you need to speak up.
Right. And it's good when you're setting your boundaries, set very clear, non negotiable, set what depletes you and what empowers you. Start there. Say what empowers you, what depletes you, things you do, and use direct, respectful language. Like, I'm not available for that. And be consistent.
Yes.
Be consistent with your boundaries. If you backpedal, then you're not doing your boundaries any good. You need to just have a calm repetition. And you'll notice if you say, no, you're not working on Saturday. And without saying why, I don't need a reason why I don't want to. So just know I'm not working on Saturday. I'm not available for that. And then the next Saturday when they ask you again, I'm not available for that. And the more you do it, the easier just saying no is
It's
it
like working
comes.
a muscle. It's really
Yeah,
like working a muscle. I mean, and boundary setting is like sacred reparenting for a lot of women. Every time a woman sets a boundary, she's affirming that inner child who once didn't feel safe speaking up.
right.
So every time you say that no, every time you use that muscle, it becomes stronger and stronger. And you don't have to sit down and write out 50 boundaries you're going to set today. No, start with one. It doesn't have to be the biggest life-changing boundary. Just start with saying no to something and let your
And
no be no.
you should expect pushback though, especially if you have especially from people who've benefited from you not having that boundary before. They're gonna be like, you did it last week. Why can't you do it this week? And honestly, there's like for working on Saturdays, we'll go back to that for a minute. If I wanted to work a Saturday and they asked me, that's different. No, I'm available. But if you're really not available or you really don't want to, saying no is an option. And that's your boundary. That when you can't, you
100%.
can't. And that's not what
Yeah.
I meant by backpedaling. Backpedaling would be doing it even if you really didn't want to.
Yes. Yes. And honor the grief that sometimes can come with boundaries because people get used to how you have presented yourself and you doing everything they ask you for to do, even beyond what you should be pushing yourself. So sometimes boundaries can change relationships, and that can be painful but necessary. So make space for the grief and the growth. But what you have to remember as well, if someone is not willing to respect your boundary, is that someone that you really want to be in that closest inner circle that you have? Now, of course, it takes time for them to get used to it as well. If I were to maybe I say, Dana, there's this word you say, and when you say it, it reminds me of my mother saying it. And I haven't said anything to you, and we've been friends for years, but could you try for me, please, not to say it? Now, that's a habit that Dana has. So that's going to take patience on both of our parts because I let it go and never told her this. And now she, because we are close and she wants to respect me as well as I respect her, is trying to use a different word. So there are different levels of boundary setting as well. The point is that if Dana uses the word, I can say, oh, Dana, there's that word again. And that may sound so simple and silly and, why would a word bother you? And that was just one example, but there are many things that we could use in replace of that. So boundary setting sometimes is an effort on both parties. But the
Mhm.
important thing is if it's something that you need a boundary for, that you either continually remind that person when they slide over that boundary, or you realize that they're never going to respect that boundary. And what does that say about how much they respect that relationship?
Absolutely. I know, I've had my own issues with boundaries in the past. And I brought up the work one because I really had that for work. I would do anything they asked me where I used to work. And towards the end of me working there, that I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No. Like I learned,
Yes.
but I was not appreciated even though I did overextend myself. And it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it. I wasn't happy. They just got the job done. It's not like they were happy. So,
Exactly.
so I'm not repeating patterns. I'm rewriting narratives.
There you go. And I mean, I think that's a good point right there about rewriting narratives, flipping that script in our mind. You
Hmm.
can use journal prompts like, where am I saying yes when my insides are screaming no? Just start simply by doing that. Like, where am I saying yes? Or where in my body am I feeling so uncomfortable when someone treats me a certain way? Where do I need to draw a line in the sand?
And if you learn to listen to your body, so when in real life happening, if you get this in your chest, it's like when somebody's saying things to you or asking you to go somewhere that you don't really want to go, and you get this, where is that? And what's it
Yes.
saying? And is that then a boundary you should be making?
Yeah. I mean, you can even do little micro boundaries. I call them micro boundaries. So somebody texts you and says, I'm ready. I'm going to call you right now. You can say something like, actually, I'm not up for a phone call right now. Can we talk tomorrow? And maybe the reason you said that is because you know when this person calls, you're going to be on the phone 5 hours. And if you're never going to be able to get off the phone and you're tired and you want to rest, you don't have the physical energy or the mental energy to do it. That's a small little micro boundary that you just set. You're not mean. You're not unkind. You just said, actually, I'm not up for it. Can we talk tomorrow instead? What are they going to say? No, I'm going to talk to you right now or else. And if they do, that's when you have to check yourself and go, who is this person? Why do
Right?
they think they have this control over my life? And if you tend to be the person that just pops out yes before thinking, try rewriting a phrase that says, let me think about it for a moment. Let me see what's on my schedule before you pop out the word yes. That was me. I was going to say yes to everything. I've struggled with boundaries. I was that way in my job. And I would definitely, anything you ask me, I was going to do it. I was going to get it done. I was your girl because whatever you needed, okay, I got that. And then you're left sitting there going, why did I do this? I'm so exhausted. Now I'm missing out on sleep. Now I've got to do this thing, and it's probably not going to be my best work because I didn't want to do it to begin with. And I just popped out. Yes. So pause. When somebody asks you something, pause and say, let me see if I can do that or not. I'll get back with you.
I mean, I do understand that sometimes we do things that we don't really want to for people we love. And it is okay to do it sometimes. But it's when when you have that feeling of overwhelm, of like being taken advantage of, that you really have to. I'm not saying set boundaries everywhere and do nothing for nobody unless it benefits you in some way. That's not what we're saying.
Right. Right. I think too, scripting out perhaps what you're going to say when you're going to flip that script and not just say yes to everything or not allow someone to treat you a particular way. I think knowing ahead of time can really help preparing you. For instance, you could say something like, I really care about you, but I also need to take care of myself right now by saying no to this. And that's reasonable. You kind of connected it to your why. You need to take care of yourself. You do not owe explanation. But if you script it out and you start thinking about it, it will become easier and easier. And then boundaries feel less scary when you're clear, too. When you know why they matter, you need to know why they matter. Nobody else does. So ask yourself, what are you protecting? What are you nurturing in yourself by saying no?
Absolutely. Because empathy without boundaries is pretty much self-destruction.
Yes. And it's going to feel awkward. Of course, it's going to be awkward. I mean, I know that I was working with someone and they cried when they had to tell someone no. Now, nobody was making them tell this person no. They wanted to say no to this, but it made them cry. And that's okay. It's okay. It's okay to doubt yourself. It's okay to cry and just normalize the discomfort. It's a sign that you're growing, not failing. And sometimes it's very hard for us, especially women, to understand that it's okay if you cannot do something. It's okay if you need to take care of you.
And it's okay if saying no is to somebody that you love, if it's for your peace,
Yes,
because that person should understand.
they should understand.
That person should understand and not cross that boundary, or at least try not to cross that boundary. Like you said about slipping up with the word or something. So there was something that I said that, and I continued to say it and then finally find out if I continue to say it the same amount that I did before without ever even checking myself,
Yeah.
then that would mean I didn't care. And what kind of a friend is that? Or what kind of,
Exactly.
you know, what
What
kind of
kind
a
of
relationship
relationship?
that? Yeah,
I mean, you are allowed to protect your peace. You should protect your peace. Nobody else is really going to protect your peace but you,
right.
because nobody else knows what it feels like within your body to have peace.
And surround yourself with the people that will respect your boundaries. And in saying that, you also have to respect other people's boundaries as well.
Yes.
So if I have a boundary and Holly has her boundaries, we just go, okay, I can do this with this person and not with Holly. and
Right. Right.
that's fine. That's fine.
It definitely is. And, even if you feel like you want to back down, if you feel like I've set this boundary and they're saying, but I don't have anybody else to come and help me set up my kid's birthday party. I don't have anybody else to do this bake sale at the school and run it and bring, we need 269 cupcakes that we love that you bake from scratch. We count on you every year and you want to back down so bad, but you know that you are working a full-time job and you have a sick baby at home. It's okay to feel like you want to back down, even though everything on your plate is too much and you cannot do this bake sale. Just remember, put your hand on your belly or on your heart and just have your mantra be, I'm allowed to protect my peace. And grounding in your body helps you stay firm in your truth. And it helps you know that how unfair is it that they're asking you to do all of this work when they probably know that your baby is sick, that you have maybe one, two, three kids, even school age in school, and that you're working a full time job on top of that. And even if you had no other circumstances, one kid in school and the thought of baking 269 cupcakes makes you want to vomit because it's a lot of work, hold to that boundary. Again, you don't have to have a reason. You don't have to have a reason other than, I don't want to do that right now. Like, I don't want to spend 8, 10 hours decorating, baking, and fixing hundreds of cupcakes right now. That's fine as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about it. If you did, so you have the sick baby and all this other stuff on your plate, and you say, and you falter and you say, okay, and you're going to make all of these cupcakes. So you do them and they're not your best quality. They're not perfect. They're not like they were in the past because you were tired. You were overexerted. You were overextended and you did it anyway. And now you're not going to be appreciated because they're going to say, what happened to these cupcakes? This isn't like the last time that you made them.
Right. Exactly.
So I think I would rather just say no.
Mhm. And every single time you follow through, even on the smallest boundary, like not accepting a phone call because you've asked someone, please don't call me between 4 and 6 because I'm helping my child with homework. Name it and celebrate it when you don't pick that phone up. Name it and celebrate it. You've already set your boundary and you're not going to do it. You're not going to pick that phone up. And you didn't pick that phone up. And it may sound silly, but you need to celebrate those wins. You are stretching yourself and you are growing and you are learning how to trust yourself and rewrite that script in your mind. And you always give in. So now honor yourself that you didn't. Honor yourself now. When people resist your boundary, it often is because your boundary is working. You've changed your pattern, and that's going to rattle the people who benefit from the old version of you. You're not being mean, you're being clear, and clarity is not cruelty. So let's just remember a few things. When people resist your boundaries, it's often because that boundary is working. You've changed your pattern, and that's going to rattle people. But you're not being mean, you're being clear, and clarity is not cruelty.
Right. And I mean, after setting your boundary, after doing it that first time and saying no, or I'm, not doing this time, and just see how did that feel? How did it make you feel? Where did you feel it in your body? Connect with that. And then what did you learn from it? Would you change anything next time? Would you say things different? Not out
And
of
as
guilt, not out of
Thank
guilt.
you. Right. And as far as guilt goes, know that guilt fades, but resentment grows.
Ab-
So let your future self guide you. Would you rather feel 5 minutes of guilt, a day of guilt, or 5 years of resentment that you did this thing that you did not want to do?
Yeah, and just tell yourself, I value my peace. I value my peace. And I value my peace more than your approval.
Well, we appreciate
Yeah.
everyone being here with us today, and we will be back next week with another fun and exciting episode with tips. And
And until then, we have a meditation daily.
it's 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. So Monday through Friday, it is 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. And Saturday and Sundays, we are here 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central. It's free. Come in and start your mornings off right. On
You
with Dana.
and it's based on whatever our podcast was for the week. So if you're having trouble with boundaries, come on in.
Yeah.
And any questions after, we're happy to answer.
Yes. You can
And
hang
don't
out with us. It's casual. You can find us. You can find the link on our Facebook. It's a permanent
and
link up there.
you'll
And
see us in
remember,
pajamas.
yes, yes. So, and also, don't forget to share this with someone. If you know someone who struggles with boundaries, or you have a friend who you see that everyone else takes advantage of and they can't say no, perhaps this will help them. So, like, share, leave us a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. And if you have
Subscribe.
also any suggestions of topics you'd like to hear about.
And please subscribe
Yes.
if you like us.
If you like us and want to get it first, please subscribe. And thank y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Great.